looking at the nuts and the bolts of laparoscopy and endoscopy, we don't actually think about the way we are thinking or the way we are approaching the subject. I'm sorry, I hadn't muted my.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but I think the purpose of these discussions, it's mainly to, especially this particular topic, is something that we act like you say, Chipo, that we don't actually think that we don't think about thinking. Mm-hmm. So we just think that it's automatic, but thinking in itself must be a process. And majority of the cases, we are always going through our normal prejudices and biases, and even some appeals to authority. We actually think, oh, because so-and-so or consultant has done this, then it must be gospel. Whereas we must always be questioning ourselves and realize, checking whether we are not biased, we are not having any prejudices in the process.
Yeah.
Dr. Manasseh, I think you must say something. Oh, Stanley, you've got a question? You have your hand up.
Yes, thanks. Thanks very much. I thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. So, Dr. Shah, I wanted to find out, how do you then go about as a junior colleague when your boss is thinking the other way? How best can you approach it? Like, you know, this is correct and this is how we should do it, but your boss, your senior colleague is thinking the other way, and you know, this is wrong. How best can you approach that?
Dr. Naira, that's your question.
Well, how best to approach a complicated senior? I don't know. That's not, I feel like that's not necessarily philosophical. I feel like that's more political, you know, in terms of, you know, sensitivities to the person, and it's something that, yeah, I think it really depends on the senior and how you approach that. You know, I don't know how if you can just be very cold and say, listen, I think you're appealing to authority, and I don't think you're correct. I think it's very much person dependent, and I think Dr. Shava might have a little bit more experience and advice in this regard than me. Dr. Shava?
Well, I think, like you say, I think it's more of your politics, because you need to understand your boss and your relationship and how you present, or how you, because sometimes it might cost you a lot to just even point to the boss that we can do it otherwise. Because I think there, it's more, that's not a philosophical issue, it's more of a political problem. I don't know how to answer that one, Stanley. Dr. Bvuma, do you have, I think Dr. Bvuma might probably comment.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'm out of my depth. I don't know. I have nothing to say.
So, Ngwaro, I think your question is very difficult. We need to research how do we deal with our seniors.
Yeah, I think we can always, all of us can use that all the time. I don't know, personally, something that I think works for me some of the time, not all of the time, is just, you know, acting a little bit innocent and being like, oh, well, why do we do it that way? I thought maybe we did it that way, but you know, it really depends on the senior and your relationship with them.
So in that case, do you continue doing the wrong thing? Like, if you really know that maybe whatever you're doing is not evidence-based, and do you continue doing it for the sake of your boss? Or
Look, I think it depends on, again, it depends on the situation. If it's endangering the patient, absolutely not, right? But it needs to be endangering the patient. What is this boss like? Can you avoid working with him in future? I don't, what are the consequences as well, right? Like if you say in a tactical way, you say, oh, this is not how I saw it in my textbook. What is the evidence for the way that you're doing things? If he sort of shouts at you, maybe, I don't know, is it possible for you to request somebody else in future, or what's the situation?
Chipoy, you have got your hand up.
I think I just wanted to comment and say I agree with Naira about sort of acting innocent and yet actually pointing out the right way. Surely, if you are enlightened, it is your prerogative to actually try to enlighten others. So if Stanley, you feel that what you know is probably right, hopefully based on some evidence and some education, then I think a political way of putting it across is to act innocent and use what Naira suggested. Having learned about some of the philosophical comments that you highlighted, Naira, and I think like Enesia, I'm going to listen to the webinar again because it will be recorded. I think it's very useful in understanding how everyone thinks and in accepting people within your surroundings.
Thanks a lot for the inputs. I'll also listen to the webinar again. Thanks for the presentation.
And Marshall, I think you wanted to say something. Dr. Manasseh?
Oh, I think he commented in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Shame. Unless he has to come on the camera on the microphone.
Dr. Morudu Ali, you have been too quiet.
Sorry, my phone
there's Marshall. Yeah, there's Marshall.
Okay, so my phone had gone on mute for a while. No, I was just saying thank you for the wonderful presentation. And that, as you're going through the presentation, you realize how much biases and fallacies we come across on a daily basis. And sometimes if you're not aware of these things, you might end up making decisions which might not actually be what they should be. Thank you for the talk. It was very insightful.
Shane, thanks everyone. You guys have been so polite and nice. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have any other burning questions or comments? I think in the absence of any further questions, I think we can call it a night. And I think thanks everybody for making time, especially because we moved the time to a later time. And thank you so much, Dr. Naira, for making yourself available. And is that Matt Sims? Is it Matthew?
Yeah, it's Matthew.
Oh, okay. So it's you also pass our thanks to Matthew that he has allowed you to come and present to us. Thank you so much, and good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, and good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Cheers.